Hi, this is Chantielle from IPD. If you're going to be doing the basic maintenance on your B18, B20 motor, then adjusting the valves is something that goes right along with your tune-ups. Although it sounds like a job for a more experienced mechanic, be it shade tree or pro, learning this skill takes only a moment, and before you know it, you'll be able to whip through this like a pro. The tools you need are a medium-sized flat blade screwdriver, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, a 1/2-inch box end wrench, a feeler gauge, and a 1/2-inch drive ratchet with usually a 13/16 socket on the end for your crank bolt. And don't forget, disconnect the battery for safety. There are 3 things we carry that we suggest you have on hand before starting. I have here a feeler gauge, a fresh valve cover gasket, and a manual. The manual is going to give you the clearance specs, aka the valve lash, and the gauge is going to measure it for you. When we put it all back together, we're going to seal it up with a fresh valve cover gasket. Here's a tip. If you adjust the valves while changing the spark plugs, do the valve adjustment when the spark plugs are out, and you'll be able to easily turn the engine over by hand using the fan blade, assuming your car does not have a cooling fan clutch. So here we have Brian's 69 142 with a B18 motor. We've already warmed up the engine and removed the valve cover, giving access to the rockers and the adjustment screws. With the motor hand cranked so that the number 8 valve is fully open, we can adjust the first valve, valve number 1. Valves are numbered from the front of the car with number 1 closest to the front and ending with number 8 at the back of the car. Here we are at valve number 1, and we've selected the proper thickness feeler gauge to set the clearance. We're going to take our wrench and loosen the lock nut right here, giving us access to the adjustment screw. Now that the nut is loose, we're able to turn the adjustment screw here so that the feeler gauge does not easily slide in and out. Not too loose, not too tight. Once I find that perfect spot, I'm going to carefully hold the adjustment screw so that it doesn't move, and then tighten down the lock nut and double check that the feeler gauge can be removed with just a slight resistance. After this, I'm going to move on to number 7 fully open and adjust the number 2 valve. When 6 is fully open, I'll adjust number 3. When 5 is fully open, I'll adjust number 4. This is called the 9s method, since whichever valve is fully open, adjust the one that will add up to 9. Now that we're ready to put it all back together, we're going to seal it up with a fresh valve cover gasket. Now don't make the rookie mistake of over-tightening the gasket, as that tends to squish the gasket a little too much and can force it inwards, resulting in leaks. And we don't want oil to leak on Brian's pretty car or yours. We recommend that you adjust the valves once every year or 10 or 15,000 miles. If you find that they need adjustment more frequently, then you may have an issue with a worn-out cam lobe or lifter, especially if it is 1 or 2 valves seem to require more adjustment compared to the others. Also, you can run the clearances a couple of thousandths tighter for quieter, smoother operation if you don't rev the motor over 4,500 RPMs. You can also run them a little looser than the stock spec if you do like to rev the motor over 5,000 RPMs frequently. This will raise the float point of the valve some so that the car will rev out to a higher point before dropping off power. That concludes our valve adjustment on the vintage Volvos. That's all there is to it. So if you have any other questions, you can go ahead and give us a call here at IPD.